Can I ask you something? Have you ever done the work, the journaling, the therapy, the program, the practice, and still found yourself circling back to the same patterns, the same self-doubt, the same ceiling you keep bumping up against, no matter how much you know? There's a reason for that. And it has nothing to do with your discipline, your intelligence, or how much you want to change. It has to do with what you believe about yourself, about what you deserve, about what is actually possible for someone like you. I'm Mary Jane, and today on the Tending Hour, we go somewhere I believe is the most quietly powerful place in this entire series. Today, we look at the beliefs running the show. You are someone who is trying to live well, someone who senses that real wellness goes deeper than what you eat or how often you move, that it lives in the stories you carry, the emotions you navigate, the relationships you cultivate, and the body you have been living in all along. The Tending Hour is a podcast about what it means to tend to the whole of who you are across all three dimensions of your life: spiritual, physical, and relational. I'm Mary Jane, integrative health and wellness coach, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and founder of Trilateral Transformation. Each season, we explore a different territory of the whole person life. Each episode, we go there across all three dimensions, slowing down, looking honestly at what is happening beneath the surface, and practicing together the kind of care that a whole person deserves. No quick fixes, no performance, just real, honest, whole person tending. At trilateraltransformation.com, there is a companion workbook available for every season, a self-guided reflection space designed to help you process what each episode stirs, go deeper with the guided prompts, and carry the season's work into the texture of your actual life. Wherever you are starting, you are in the right place. And whatever you are carrying, there is room for it here. This is the Tending Hour, and you were made for this kind of tending. Welcome back to the Tending Hour. Today, we go somewhere that I believe is the most quietly powerful place we have visited in this entire series. Today, we talk about beliefs. Not the beliefs you hold consciously, the ones you could articulate if someone asked, but the ones operating beneath that, the ones so deeply embedded in how you see yourself and the world that they don't feel like beliefs at all. They feel like facts. And that distinction between a belief that feels like a fact and an actual fact is where everything in today's episode lives. Because here's what I know to be true after years of working with people in the territory of whole person wellness. You can have all the knowledge, all the tools, all the right intentions, and still find yourself circling back to the same patterns, the same self-sabotage, the same invisible ceiling, because underneath the knowledge and the tools, there's a belief quietly running the show that says, this is not for you. You are not someone who gets to have this. You will always end up back here. Until we look at that belief, until we actually name it, examine it, and choose what we want to do with it, no amount of information changes anything at the deepest level. That is what today is for. I want to start with something that I hope will feel immediately relieving. You did not choose most of your beliefs. The beliefs that shape how you see yourself, your worth, your capability, what you deserve, what is possible for you, what kind of person you are. Most of them were handed to you by the families you were born into, by the cultures that formed you, by the experiences that marked you before you had the language or the perspective to examine what they meant. You were, in the most literal sense, programmed, not maliciously, not always even consciously, but repeatedly, consistently, from a very early age. The people and environments around you were writing code into the operating system of how you understand yourself. And here's the most important thing I want you to hear today. The fact that you did not choose those beliefs does not mean you are stuck with them. You are not your programming. You are the one who can read it, examine it, decide what still belongs and what was never true to begin with. That is not a small power. That is one of the most extraordinary capacities of the human mind, the ability to turn its attention on itself, to see its own patterns, to choose consciously and deliberately something different. And in the context of wellness, of whole person, whole life wellness, this capacity is not optional. It is essential because every habit you try to build, every practice you try to sustain, every change you try to make lives inside the container of what you believe is possible for you. Change the belief and the container expands. Everything else becomes easier, not because the work disappears, but because you are no longer working against yourself at the deepest level. Let's talk about what beliefs actually are at a neurological level, because understanding the mechanism is part of what makes change feel possible rather than overwhelming. At a neurological level, a belief is a well-worn road, a pathway the brain has traveled so many times that it requires almost no conscious effort. When a situation arises that your brain recognizes or thinks it recognizes, it takes the familiar road almost before you are aware it has started moving. This is why simply deciding to think differently, willing yourself to believe something new, is rarely enough on its own. You are not fighting a thought. You are navigating decades of deeply grooved neural architecture. The good news, and this is genuinely extraordinary news, is that the brain retains its capacity for change throughout our entire lives. The brain can build new roads at any age, under any circumstances, with the right conditions and the right practice. This is not positive thinking. This is neuroscience. The brain is not fixed. It is not finished. It is, as long as you are alive, available for new learning, new patterns, new ways of understanding yourself and what is possible for you. What the research tells us is that lasting belief change involves three things working together: awareness, seeing the belief clearly, perhaps for the first time; examination, questioning whether it is actually true, where it came from, what it has cost you; and replacement, not just thinking something new, but practicing it, feeling it, letting the body know, not just the mind, that things are different now. That three-part process is exactly what we are going to walk through together today. Beliefs, like everything we explore in the Tending Hour, live in all three dimensions of who you are. And the beliefs that most quietly limit your wellness look different depending on which dimension they're operating in. The beliefs we carry about our spiritual life are often the oldest and the deepest, laid down before we had any framework to evaluate them. They sound like, I am not worthy of grace. I have done too much wrong to deserve peace. Spirituality is for people who have it more together than I do. My questions mean I don't really believe. My doubts disqualify me from belonging. Or quieter, more subtle versions. I don't deserve to ask for help. Good things don't last for people like me. Something always goes wrong eventually, so I shouldn't get too hopeful. These beliefs are not the truth about who you are. They are the conclusions a younger version of you drew from experiences that were painful or confusing or simply too large for that smaller self to hold. And they have been quietly running in the background ever since, shaping how fully you allow yourself to receive, how deeply you allow yourself to rest in the felt sense that you are held, how wide you allow your spiritual life to become. The spiritual work of examining beliefs is not about dismantling faith. It is about expanding it into a version of your inner life that has room for your full self, your questions, your complexity, your history, and your inherent non-negotiable worth. The beliefs we carry about our bodies are, for many of us, among the most painful we hold. They sound like, my body is the problem. I have no self-control. I always fail eventually. I am too far gone to really change. I don't deserve to feel good in my body until I have earned it by becoming something different than what I am now. These beliefs did not originate inside you. They were handed to you by a culture that profits from your dissatisfaction, by comments made by people who should have known better, by a wellness industry that has spent decades telling you that you are a problem to be solved rather than a person to be nourished. And here's what I want to say directly, clearly, without softening. Those beliefs are not true. They have never been true. And every wellness effort you make while carrying them is working against a headwind that has nothing to do with your actual capability. The most transformative work in the physical dimension of wellness is not the next nutrition plan or the next exercise program. It is the slow, steady, courageous process of examining what you actually believe about your body and beginning, one thought at a time, to choose something kinder, something truer. Not toxic positivity, not pretending everything is fine, but genuinely questioning the beliefs that have been posing as facts and asking whether you are willing to consider, even tentatively, that a different story might be possible. The beliefs we carry about relationships, about whether we are lovable, whether we are safe with others, whether our needs are too much or too inconvenient or destined to go unmet, shape every connection we attempt. They sound like, I have to earn love. If people really knew me, they would leave. Asking for help is a burden. I am too much for most people. I am not enough for the people I want. These beliefs were almost always learned relationally through early experiences of connection and disconnection, of being seen and being overlooked, of reaching for someone and finding them present or absent. And they create a self-fulfilling architecture. When we believe we are too much, we make ourselves smaller and then feel unseen. When we believe we have to earn love, we perform rather than connect, and then feel lonely, even in company. When we believe asking for help is a burden, we carry everything alone, and then wonder why we are so exhausted. The relational work of examining beliefs is the work of asking, is this belief about relationships based on what is actually true about me? Or is it based on the conclusions I drew from specific experiences with specific people in a specific season of my life? And then, gently, with evidence, with patience, beginning to let the relationships you have now write a different story than the one that was written for you then. I want to give you a practice today that I call the Belief Audit. It is not a quick exercise, it is an ongoing practice, but I want to give you a place to begin. Step 1 is surfacing. Choose one area of your wellness where you consistently struggle, where you know what you want to do and still find yourself not doing it, or undoing it, or circling back to the same place. And instead of asking, what is wrong with your discipline, ask a different question. What would have to be true about me for this pattern to make complete sense? Sit with that. Write it down if that helps. What you find, the belief that makes the pattern logical, is what you are looking for. Step 2 is examining. Once you have surfaced the belief, hold it up to the light. Ask 3 questions. Where did this come from? Is it actually true, or does it feel true because it is familiar? And what has it cost me to live as though it were fact? Step 3 is choosing. This is not about replacing the old belief with a forced affirmation that your nervous system doesn't believe yet. It is about finding a statement that is slightly more true than the old one, a small but genuine shift. Not, I love my body and everything is perfect, but perhaps, my body is doing its best with what it has been given, and so am I. Not, I am completely worthy of love exactly as I am, but perhaps, I am learning to consider that my worth was never something I needed to earn. Small, genuine, slightly more true than before, practiced consistently, written down, spoken aloud, returned to when the old road tries to pull you back. That is how beliefs change. Not in a single revelation, in the quiet, consistent, courageous practice of choosing a different thought, until one day it no longer feels like a choice. It simply feels like what is true. In phase 2 of the Trilateral Transformation Program, Integrate, the week we spend on beliefs is one that people consistently describe as a turning point, not because it is the hardest week, but because it is the one where they finally understand why everything else has felt so difficult. The workbook for this week walks you through the belief audit in depth, across all three dimensions, with specific prompts designed to surface the beliefs most likely to be operating beneath your wellness patterns. It is careful work. It is also freeing work, perhaps the most freeing in the entire program. If you are ready to go deeper than this episode can hold, the door is in the show notes. I would love to have you inside. Before you go today, I want to leave you with something I want you to carry, not just from this episode, but from this point forward in all the wellness work you do. You are not your history. You are not the conclusions drawn about you by people who were doing their best with their own unexamined beliefs. You are not the programming. You are not the pattern. You are the one who can see it. And the moment you can see something, really see it, clearly and honestly, it no longer has the same power over you. It becomes a choice rather than a given, a road you can take or leave rather than a track you are running on without knowing it. That is what awareness does. That is what this work does. That is what you are building, episode by episode, dimension by dimension, belief by belief, every time you show up here. In our next episode, we arrive at something special. Episode 8 closes phase 2, and we explore what it actually feels like when the pieces start connecting, when integration stops being a concept and becomes an experience, when you begin to recognize in your actual life, in actual moments, that something has genuinely shifted. I cannot wait to be there with you. I'll see you then. Until next time, tend to all of you.